We have irritated him now. He will never be back. Not after it. It was a very late night. My parents were not present, and I was alone in the house. My uncle had been staying for the winter holiday over the last 2 weeks. My parents were fond of him because they found him humorous. But I had a strong distaste for him. He would gaze at me in a horrifying manner every day. The initial thought was to point at my face, but as he continued to gaze down towards me, his gaze would increase. Disturbing. My parents laughed when I tried to tell them about it, and they responded by saying that he was probably just being funny. He departed on the spot one morning without anyone being around to witness his departure. A note was left by him stating that he needed to go somewhere quickly. I can't remember exactly where it was. I shivered in bed, even though I couldn't stop thinking about him while watching Netflix. All of a sudden, my phone went off. I seized it. The advertisement was a quick request. Without delay, I became disoriented as I struck first and waited for the person who had added me to reply. "Good day, X," the message was pronounced. I chuckled and said, "Hey, ex-spouse." His Bitmoji waited on the screen, and for a moment I was horrified. I scribbled information. "Your appearance is very seductive," I made a guess. I was taken aback when I realized that this guy had not seen me. I hadn't sent a picture yet. "I appreciate it. Haha. What is your method of discerning?" He remained silent. I was left alone in conversation after his Bitmoji disappeared. I put my phone away, and for a moment I thought, this guy's just like any other girl trying to play with me. As I looked up, another photo was taken and my eyebrows lifted. Once again, it came from him, even though it was a painless experience this time. I opened it with excitement. My whole stomach was flattened by dread. I was examining a picture of me in bed, staring at my mobile device. I was unable to move. The flash was sourced from my wardrobe. Who's the person in question? Agnostication. Is there a divine being in existence? Can you tell me about your mother? The wardrobe door began to slowly open. Then I saw a face light up in the darkness. I was the subject of my uncle's stare. He sprang into action with a loud and unsettling smile. "Good day, Jane." With great care, he carefully removed his belongings from the wardrobe and placed each foot on the floor. The phone fell to the ground as he proceeded. I've been patient. Angered at him. My eyes were filled with terror. I trembled and fell back asleep, crawling towards the other side of the bed as I tried to keep away from him. My phone was cradled under the covers. I started recording a voice message. "You're liberated." He squirmed and moved around. "I'm filled with excitement because of you. I'm always filled with excitement when I see you." His face slid as he laughed uncontrollably. He observed me with a hunger for more. As I reached the end of the bed, my eyes began to well with tears. It was necessary for me to stand up. After taking cover, I swept back and forth until my spine came to rest on the wall. He uttered a silent confession. "Jane, where are you headed next?" He initiated digging into his pocket. "Don't do it!" I screamed. He remained silent and stared straight at the bed as he headed towards it. He quickly made his way over to the surface, ascending slowly and carefully as if to avoid any disturbance. His hand remained in his pocket, securely placed and waiting. "Jane, I've been waiting in that frock for 2 days. I did it for you, though. Are you unable to see that?" My skin was filled with fear as I imagined him watching me sleep for 2 nights, observing my transformation. Insane. Take a break. As he came down from the bed, I let out a loud scream. He was in my presence. He remained silent for a moment, only glancing back at me as I fell to the ground, terrified. All of a sudden, something happened to him. "Don't belittle me like that little girl." He held me by the arm and lifted me up. He flung me to the ground and proceeded to tackle me as I tried to cough. He adored it. I was close to standing up when he suddenly stomped on my back, pushing me against the ground. "Jane, I want you to show me why you should have been so quiet and pathetic." The door opening downstairs caused him to be halted. My bedroom door was approached by both of us with our heads bowed. I couldn't contain my emotions and yelled at my parents to come and rescue me. In an instant, the sound of footsteps echoed. As I stood up on the stairs, my eyes filled with tears. I was rescued. Shortly after, I was silenced with a sharp hit to the head. It took me several hours to wake up. My parents had inquired about what occurred, why I was unconscious on the floor, and why the window had a hole in it. I stepped into their arms and reached for my phone. Everything was voice message, and I displayed it to them, and my mom ran out of the room, tears welling up as she threw up in the bathroom. My dad, on the other hand, was visibly furious and quickly ran to retrieve the landline. It took the police approximately 30 minutes to arrive. My parents presented them with the voice message, "Smashed window and quivering child," to me. They proceeded to ask the entire family if they had seen my uncle. The location of his whereabouts was unknown to all of them. We haven't done so up to this point. The morning he was originally fond of vanished. My damage is irreversible. I have no faith in any male relative except for my father, resulting in the removal of my wardrobe from inside my room. However, I make sure to check everywhere every night. Who has a clear idea? It's conceivable that I will be hiding in plain sight once more. To get started with the story, I recommend you to subscribe to the channel. I'm pretty sure most of you who watch me are subscribed. If you are fond of the content and want to support the channel, subscribe and hit the bell. It's a no-cost service that guarantees you can change your mind at any time. I had the chance to cool off or shut my eyes for a moment. That was my preferred way of doing things. I had the opportunity to contact my patients, but most had opted out of therapy due to the holiday season. They had a sense of satisfaction with their families, which made me almost useless. I loathed the thought. I opted to make an effort to be available and not bore me in any way. Snapchat has been absent from my memory for years, so I'm not sure why I downloaded it and why not. But overall, it didn't make a difference. I snapped a few pictures and even took videos with myself looking at the camera. I was proficient at pretending to be happy. I am unable to do anything more productive and would be pleased to offer guidance to everyone. After my speech, I waved my hands and sat on my stomach, waiting for the DMs to come through. I've always been pretty, which made it easy for me to find friends like this when I was feeling low and needed someone to love. However, it was mostly a source of amusement. My sole intention during the winter season was to assist individuals who were experiencing hardship, and my phone became painful in no time. I'm not up to anything, but I need someone to listen carefully. Elias had no knowledge about this, and it was odd to move into the calling phase so quickly. But I still wanted to lend a hand. Until then, I'll communicate through text, but only after we establish some skills and know how to assist you. Even as an adult, I was ensnared with stranger danger. That's a good idea, okay? It was the first time something bizarre had occurred. My phone's display whirled once and the messages were stripped of their colors in front of my eyes. I observed my email in black and white, which was quite unusual. Can you explain what it is? Could this be a new filter? Is my brain functioning abnormally? In a matter of seconds, everything returned to its usual state. Vicky, I have some undisclosed information. What's the deal with Huge? How did he come up with my nickname? Even though it was not impossible, it wasn't invincible. Would it be helpful to share the same with someone you've never met before? Maybe, but I want to be sure that you can put my trust in you. It was a little bit specific, but nothing fancy. I was about to reveal a humiliatingly exaggerated secret of mine to him, but the screen flickered once more. It's a bit of an oddity. Is it possible that I downloaded the wrong version of the app? Can you recall what occurred on this day a decade ago? That was a breeze, I can tell you. It's likely that I was in high school, getting ready for prom. I didn't remember what I must have been doing, but like most other teenagers my age, I was probably in high school, going out for a shopping trip. Is it true? That's a good amount of information for me. It was a bit strange. I endeavored to retrain my brain, but nothing in particular was shown. It's possible that Elias was a friend who happened to be looking for me and pulled pranks on me. I mean, it was easy to find me. I was consuming content on social media with my other accounts, therefore. Do you have confidence? The answer is affirmative. It's all right. Is it possible to have faith in you if you're not willing to share everything with me? The text was constantly being rewritten with the addition and removal of every word. I ingested heavily. There was a strange sensation. I'm sorry, but I can't be of assistance at this time. It's time for me to go. Bye-bye. I opened a new account thinking that there might be an issue with my current one. It's possible that some oddball playing a trick on me was done by my kids or something. There was a bizarre filter on my face no matter what I tried to post. Nevertheless, it was labeled as a deceitful person with skulls surrounding it. It's all right. Is it possible that Halloween has passed away without anyone realizing it? Friskly. I tossed my phone on the ground, scared. A distorted voice emanated from my phone, which was quiet but almost familiar. What was the source of my previous knowledge about it? Let's just wait. Who is Elias? You recollected me? Efficient. I'm satisfied. I'm curious. What exactly is it? Nevertheless, it's not possible. I was in a state of disbelief at the moment. I was aware that there was no solution. Nevertheless, I am asking you to write a post about how much you despise everyone. Embarrass yourself in front of your friends. What's wrong with you? I will reveal the details of what happened 10 years ago to you all. Are you capable of retaining memories? I'm sorry he's been running too fast. One's chuckle, the combination of snow and pain. Is it accurate to say that 10 years ago? Elias, we were kids. We didn't mean to. Despite his objections, I carried out everything he suggested. He instructed me to take pictures with my old stuffed animals and pretend as if I was younger. It was my turn to do it. My online acquaintances inquired about my well-being. I conveyed to them that I was just feeling a bit nostalgic. He instructed me to get emotional and curse at the pizza delivery driver in our locality. The internet was abuzz with rumors about the impolite woman who shouted at the man who was doing his job. Elias would request my assistance and I would oblige. I was left with no option. I implored him to release me without hesitation. I endeavored to persuade him that it was about time for his soul to end. Despite my words, my phone overheated and caused a burn on my hand. He thought it was just a game, but I did everything. Is it true that you won't disclose anything to anyone? It's important to note that I wasn't telling the truth. It's something I'm aware of. I won't do it. I experienced a feeling of discourteous behavior. I was aware that my actions were wrong 10 years ago, but I didn't want anyone else to know. Despite everything, it was just a joke. Elias wasn't at fault for. Nevertheless, you are free to do so. It's been over 10 years and I can't fathom why I'm doing this. It's my responsibility to disclose what happened to Elias Smith. My 3 friends. I had a desire to play truth or dare, but we needed someone who we could shamefully. We were too clever to engage in nonsensical activities like kissing. Elias, who was the loser of our class, was picked by us. He had a liking for me. I challenged him to wear his underwear and socks outside in the snowy weather. Run along the main roads as most cars were unable to drive during that period. I informed him that if he did, I would be willing to date him, as if I had been dishonest. Elias, he departed. Nevertheless, he never returned. He's gone for this day. We are unaware of what had taken place with him. Elias, I'm sorry. I genuinely am. In order to assist individuals like you, I became a psychiatrist. Nevertheless, I've never been a profoundly arrogant person, a repulsive bully. You have taken everything away from me. Are you feeling joyful? There's never a day when I don't feel like life is truly mystified. You cannot fathom how your life can transform from the moment you wake up. The question remains whether you will experience something special or a typical day with no excitement. The question of whether it will be the worst day of your life is another thing you don't know. The most unpleasant day of my life caught me off guard, and it all began with a simple Snapchat message. It all began on a typical weekday night. Due to Ethan's doctor status, I tend to spend most nights in solitude. I was initially apprehensive about it, but eventually I got over it and carried on with my life. As a writer, I found that having the whole house to myself made it easier for me to concentrate. That night, I was going to sleep peacefully. Due to my exhaustion and the desire to see my husband in the morning, I had resorted to eating and sleeping. After dinner, I was in the shower when a Snapchat message appeared and alerted me to it. The message I received was from an unknown person who was trailing my husband and me. The moment I accepted the message request, I read it and felt utterly terrified. The message conveyed that Ethan was in a critical state due to being attacked by an unstable patient and therefore required me to go to the hospital. I almost ran away to get my car keys and go to see my husband, but something happened. In the past, I would have been eager to investigate the circumstances surrounding Ethan's disappearance. Nevertheless, there was no explanation available for me until I saw an article on television and spent a brief moment staring at it. A young journalist reported on the news that kidnapping cases were increasing rapidly in the state, and we must take all necessary measures to avoid becoming another victim. I felt guilty for questioning the man on Snapchat, so I contacted my husband, but no one answered. I hurried to my house's front door, but as I was opening it, something appeared in my mind. Initially, I thought that their contact list would be limited to Snapchat because Ethan's phone was blocked and my number is unknown. In case of an emergency, Ethan has access to my contact information. Why do people have to search for me on Snapchat? I opted to send another message to the guy on Snapchat before opening the door. I asked for a picture of Ethan on the gurney to validate his statement. Until that point, the man on Snapchat, who was said to be my colleague of Ethan's, had been responding to me with speed, as if he was attentive to my messages. But then, when I began to doubt him, something happened. The message I received was a picture. At this time, a picture was taken of that. The snapshot depicted the front entrance of my dwelling and its small window. It's as if you could see my face. Upon opening the door, I was taken aback by what I saw and then looked out. Two shadows, standing in the darkness, kept observing me without any fear. I hurriedly made my way to the dining room, knowing that they couldn't witness me, and immediately alerted the authorities. The house's power went out and the front and back windows were shattered. It wasn't just one person who wanted to cause me pain. Until the police arrived, I was aware that I had to go inside. I was saved by stammering for time. I took cover under the dining room couch, hoping nobody would find me. That's when I first laid eyes on them. My dwelling became filled with people walking around, possibly searching for me. The house was occupied by at least 3 individuals, all of whom were wearing frightening masks, dispersing and covering the exit doors. The man wearing the mask with a smile was responsible for searching the dining room, and I sensed that he was just about to find me, knocking on every table and piece of furniture. He was getting closer and closer to the couch. In the event that he came too close and knocked it over, what actions could I take? Do you think I should attempt to squat it? Is it advisable for me to attempt to flee? Both options were not satisfactory. The man was positioned just a few steps away from me. Was I supposed to be there? Nonetheless, it was unattainable. The bottom of the chair was covered in cloth, creating the impression that the base was touching the ground. He was unable to fathom my presence in this location. The man was positioned beside the chair, with his feet barely touching my hands. I waited as long as I possibly could. My body sank in fear as I was about to be caught. Where were the police? Why did it take them so long? I couldn't resist for even a second. My eyes were filled with tears, and I had to cover my mouth to prevent making noise. People think I can handle this kind of situation, but nobody really understands what it feels like to actually have something like this happen to you. I longed for a screen to function and fry. A man was looking for me to do something that could potentially harm my well-being, and I was in a state of panic. All of a sudden, I was hit on the couch. Had my whereabouts been uncovered? The effect was distinct, no doubt about it. In a fit of rage, the man who was trying to find me kicked it. She's also not present. I combed through the entire dining hall. It's time to depart. It's my belief that she has contacted the police. I succeeded in my task. They weren't able to locate me. The man's presence on the couch above me filled me with a sense of relief. I shut my eyes in anticipation for their departure. According to their statement, the police would be present at any given moment. The man above paused the call, and I caught him typing a message. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's true that you shouldn't have if your cell phone turned off, ignoring my attacker's attack. The man held me tightly and hugged me, preventing me from fleeing. My friend promptly joined him, covering my face with a cloth bag and restrained me. I was unable to do anything other than kick and scream, stopping only to beg for mercy. I could sense a man pulling me towards my house and starting to pull me out. Someone threw me into the suitcase while I heard the sound of a hinged door. The automobile got into gear and accelerated. It's impossible to put into words how awful that moment was. I sensed that my life had ended and that I would never see those who were meant for me again. I exhausted all my energy to the point of crying. The conclusion was reached. I heard a loud noise coming from the trunk and my head hitting the floor. I was occupied, and I heard shots being fired before witnessing someone open the car trunk a few seconds later. The men in the masks were not themselves. They were law enforcement officials. It seems that I was not the only one who called the police. My neighbors were also aware of strange people in the vicinity of my home and raised a concern. It was ironic that I had the chance to meet my husband while being taken to the hospital. He was unharmed. Upon hearing my disclosure, he realized that his cell phone was missing and hadn't been found for the entire day. I had no knowledge of the person on the telegram. Just a few weeks ago, I followed him back. It was then that I realized that all the kidnappings were cold turkeys, and they were done with a lot of time and patience. I was on the brink of being a victim of these individuals, but somehow I managed to survive. Let me tell you the truth. The story doesn't inspire a moral thought in me. I was only informed that the world is much darker than my perception, and that a single Snapchat message can bring about the end of your life.